Expectation. That means a lot of things to a lot of different people, doesn't it, Miah?
What are you expecting, Domino?
Well, today's episode, we're going to be talking about some things that a lot of people had a lot of expectation with. Welcome to the next episode of An Hour with Domino. Miah is my guest again, thankfully. And because I've been wanting you to come on for a little while. This will be the second one of this year, in 2019. Before we get into main topics, just kind of do a little bit of a reason why I didn't have an episode out in February at all is because that was a very busy month for me. And you, Miah. We celebrated our anniversary, one of our anniversaries again.
Just one of them.
Yes. The anniversary of when we met.
Yeah. We met the day before Valentine's Day.
We met in 2012. That is how long I've known you.
Have you ever discussed what brought us together?
Off and on. Not too much on this show, I don't think, unless it was just with you.
It may have been.
Yeah.
But, yeah. We met each other because of a completely random post on MySpace.
Yes.
While MySpace was dead.
Yeah, if anybody has negative responses about MySpace, I met Miah via MySpace, and I have been with him since 2012. So, don't let people tell you that internet relationships don't work, because my mother also met her current husband online, and they have been married since, 2003? So...
Yeah. I've heard of a lot of successes from MySpace and stuff. But people say it shamefully, like, we met on MySpace.
I don't really care. Right after that, we celebrated St. Valentine's Day together, because it's right near it, and then, of course, my birthday came along, toward the end of February.
It's an expensive month for me.
I really didn't want too much for my birthday, just you mostly.
You wanted someone interesting. Domino talks to interesting people.
Oh, okay. I know we're just kind of doing kind of a slow start, but we always do this. We always do this at the beginning of the show. It's fine. It's a podcast. Who cares? It's my show. This is An Hour with Domino, talking about whatever he wants. But right before we started, we were watching an old wrestling match, isn't it? Back in what year was it?
It was in 1984.
1984,
it was
and they
full
had
broadcast of the Madison Square Garden show on ESPN or something like
with
that.
1984 commercials at that.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting. But
it's fun to make fun of the commercials. There was this one of this interviewer who interviewed sports people and stuff, and they're like, so-and-so talks to interesting people, and then it just stops. It doesn't specify anything else after that.
Oh, they had to specify, or not specify, but put heavy emphasis on interesting people only.
Yeah, you're not invited.
That's the way it was in the 80s. People were very particular and materialistic.
You can still see a lot of the influences in 80s broadcasts of 70s and 60s, when people were still kind of used to live broadcasting and very much more definitely wasn't professional. They hadn't grown an idea of what was aesthetically pleasing and what captured a home audience's attention
Mhm.
as compared to what the majority of the people who ran it at the time were probably old vaudevillians and stuff like that, how they would announce things and talk to people. And it's very interesting. The old guard of like the 50s was still running the show in the 80s when it came to broadcasting and announcement. And you could see it very plainly with like the old Hollywood Scarlets and stuff like that. They would have hosting things and sitting down in a wood paneled room drinking a glass of wine or something, talking to you about what shampoo they use and stuff like that. I use VO5. Back when I was on the I don't know, the Dick Van Dyke Show, I always used VO5 shampoo.
Whom is surprisingly still alive.
Dick Van Dyke, yes, he's still alive.
He's ancient now, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, we just wanted to touch upon that a little bit. In the podcast, I want to have only 2 song breaks because we actually have some topics, and when Miah's on, I only want to do 2 song breaks. When it's just me, I'll do 3.
Because we go on some
it.
tangents here and there.
Well, I like that we talk about things a little bit more deeply than when I do just by myself, although I can do that. I don't know, I'm a little bit more... I don't know, however you want to say it, but when I mentioned that part of the show is going to be about expectation, we're going to be talking about some certain things that have come out lately that people were expecting in one way or another, whether they were expecting them to be good or expecting them to be bad.
Disappointment,
and also... relishment.
There you go.
There you
That's
are.
using those thesaurusi. Thesaurusi.
I remember one time I used the word relish, and I said I relish this very much, and I always have used that word for many years. And my sister said, "Why would you put relish on it?" Because being a little dweeb that she was.
Because it's tasty.
It's not the food relish. It means to, savor.
We're going to garnish your salary. Garnish my celery?
Well, I want to get into talking about some games, movies, a little bit about some of our projects even.
Wow.
Around the point of the show when it's Miah's time to talk about whatever he wants, he can touch upon anything he might be working on if he wants to, or anything, or even just carry on with what we had been talking about. But let's get into Pokemon and games talk. We'll keep those two a little bit combined together. We'll touch upon Pokemon first. Generation 8 has been revealed.
A little bit of Generation 8.
Yes, a little bit.
The Generation
of
8 games have definitely been revealed as to what they are.
Pokemon Sword and Shield.
Don't forget Gun.
Quote unquote, sort of based on the UK. I can sort of see some influence in it, definitely. I'm actually really in love with this. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always in love with seeing brand new Pokemon coming. I told all of you that we were getting Generation 8 this year. I knew it was coming. I'm just going to say it right now, I'm absolutely in love with Scorbunny. He is the best Generation 8 starter, I'll say that again, and I will have no argument.
You can fight me.
Scorbunny is definitely the best. I love it. Maybe not the best out of all the starters, but the best of Generation 8 starters, yes. He's the one that I'm going to be choosing. He's adorable.
A lot of people are saying they're going to go with Shield because you get to play the girl, and a lot of people like the girl design better than the boy design.
Oh, so, that is so fitting that you play the boy with Pokemon Sword.
Because he's got that sword.
I was probably going to choose Sword anyway. I love swords. I have my own little collection.
I bet you do.
Yeah, I do.
Sorry.
Hey, this is uncensored.
You don't.
You can talk about whatever you want. I don't care.
You
It's not
only
monetized.
like the sword, you like the sheath too.
Yeah. You can't have a good sword without a sheath. That's what protects it.
Oh my god.
Keeps it shiny.
The short sword and stone, you gotta pull it out from between the two rock hard stones. And then you'll be king.
There you are. You heard it from him.
That'll be an aspect in the new Pokemon game. This sword and stone.
There already is a sword Pokemon, you know. Hone Edge.
Oh yeah.
Evolves into Doublade, and then eventually, with the help of a Dusk Stone, will become Aegislash.
We were trying to think of Pokemon that could be introduced that are English inspired, and all we could really come up with were objects.
I know.
Like we came up with grandfather clocks. We came up with.
Oh yeah, I want a clock Pokemon.
What else did we come up? We came up with there should be some more variants on Klefki and
Yeah.
Chandelier. You know what I bet they're gonna make, and this I don't maybe jinxing this saying this, but I think they're gonna make a chimney sweep Pokemon.
That would be interesting.
It's gonna be this kind of monkey looking thing, and he's
Well,
gonna.
what if that's like Grookey's final evolution?
Grookey doesn't give off any vibe like that, other than that he carries a stick. So I think he's just going to become a typical ninja kind of monkey thing. Like it doesn't make sense why they put a quote chimp Pokemon
Because
unquote,
it's Pokemon. This is their world. They
in England. How is England known for their chimps? Apparently.
Okay, well, the Kalos region had an interesting Pokemon in it too that had nothing to do with France. Like Gorgeist, for instance, which is strictly from like Irish heritage.
I guess.
Carving pumpkins for Halloween.
That was something we said. There needs to be a Banshee Pokemon.
Yes, I think that would be very interesting if they did a Pokemon based on the Banshee and it'd be a ghost type of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what, there will be influence from the area that this new generation, the Galar region is what it's called. It'll have influence of the UK, but no matter what, they will always still have Japanese-inspired ones too, because they're creating it out of Japan. They always put in their own lore.
Yeah. They can't really help it. Their creators are Japanese. They can only write what they know.
Yes. One other thing that I thought might be interesting is if we see some sort of Pokemon based off the Hound of the Baskervilles, or even detectives, or something like that, mystery. Because on the Sword and Shield are these wolf heads or something, hound heads. I don't know if they're legendaries or what, but that was my little thought on a few things with that.
What are your thoughts on the graphics?
Graphics look fine to me. I like them. They're pretty high quality.
I've never cared about graphics. As long as they don't make me vomit, I've never really, literally, because I get motion sickness. As long as they don't literally make me ill, I have never cared about graphics.
I remember this topic too when in playing Pokemon Revolution Online, which I've almost been playing for 2 years now. There's been people on there that have said, we know that the graphics is a little bit more minimal, but we do this because we all love these graphics, and it reminds us of when we played, what so-and-so game, and we've had a few people make accounts and then leave because the graphics are not up with the times, but they're not changing it because they want it this way. And I don't care. I don't mind. All the Pokemon look good in it, and the game is good, so...
See, I never knew it was an issue, because before I was ever into Pokemon, that's all I ever saw. I never saw 3D Pokemon.
Yeah, you only saw the little sprites.
Yeah, I only ever saw flat pixely sprites. I was
Because
always
that's the way it was for years.
I knew it was made by Nintendo, so I knew, so it's sort of Legend of Zelda looking graphics, Link into the Past looking graphics. And
that's the way it's always been until just recent years.
I had never seen Colosseum or Gale of Darkness, so
Well,
I didn't know Pokemon had ever been 3D. I remember thinking when I first met you, I was like, I wonder if they'll ever make 3D Pokemon games, like that actually look like good. And I never knew there were games like that. I always thought they were traditionally pixel art video games.
And people want more of them, and that's why they're making the core games look a little bit more like them now. I mean, I don't mind the 3D, but I also don't mind the traditional look, too. It's... either one's fine with me. I've had dreams about being in the Pokemon world, and it looks very 3D and real, but...
And I understand that completely. As I think I've explained on this show before, that, like, there was a time in my life, I think I went about 8 years of my life, and every single night I dreamed about wrestling.
Yeah, because it was a passion.
Wrestling. Yep. So, I mean, I loved music, but that was just the most exciting and relaxing thing for me was professional wrestling. And for you, that was Pokemon.
Yeah, a few other anime too along the way, but mostly Pokemon, especially in earlier years. I guess we're going to see. I'm going to definitely update more on here with more news that comes out for Generation 8 Pokemon later this year. Hopefully they won't wait too long to reveal any more stuff. Detective Pikachu's coming out in May, which we're both excited for.
Yeah, I am glad they're doing it. I think it's really cool that we're finally getting a live-action Pokemon movie. Quote, live-action, unquote. I do feel that a lot of the wind got taken out of the sails with it, though, because of the way they advertise it. And
yeah, we have actually said we're not watching any more trailers.
Not only by the way that they advertise it as being just, I hate saying this, it makes me sound like a cocky douche, but lowest common denominator. Like, it is, they have to play, like, goofy music inside of it and only show the comedy scenes and stuff. And
there's clearly some parts in it that are going to be serious, and also based off the severity of the game, too. And
also that it's Detective Pikachu.
Yeah.
Like a game that a lot of people were going around saying isn't even real. I remember when it came out, people were like, that isn't real. Don't even.
I remember when they said that too, but the game is real.
Yeah, it's real. And then it became a meme because, ironically cool, right now, Danny DeVito was attached to it when people were like, get Danny DeVito to play the voice of... And...
I kind of hate that because Danny DeVito's a good actor.
He is, but he's ironically cool right now, so I don't believe anything when people say anything about him. And
hopefully
I think when
that won't be the only reason they go see Dumbo at the end of this month.
It might be, but that they decided to make a Pokemon movie out of Detective Pikachu. Like out of nowhere, after decades of thinking we'll never have a live-action Nintendo movie, period.
I know why they did that. I read on it.
Why was that?
Hollywood and certain directors were asking, can we make a Pokemon live-action movie? And Pokemon said no first. And then they thought about it. They kind of sat on it for a little bit, and they said, okay, we'll let you make a movie out of this. And they gave them the game. They didn't want them to use their primary material, like Ash and them. In case it fails.
All right.
So they gave them the game.
Makes sense. That definitely makes sense.
They're going to see how this goes, and if it does go well, maybe more will come in the future.
And here's the thing. As always, I am in the absolute minority with this, because a lot of people love the fact that, it's actually goofy and it seems like a nice romp and they don't really care, blah, blah, blah.
It's like a soft start.
Most people
maybe
would hate it if it was how I envisioned it, that it was going to be serious, you know.
Oh yeah, my story that I've been doing off and on is a little bit more serious.
People would have hated it. People would have been, oh my god, what are you doing to Pokemon? Lol. Roll my eyes, whatever.
That's kind of how I feel about my Pokemon story that I've been writing off and on for a long time. I go back to it now and then just to look at it and see if I want to add more to it or not, but it's more serious than what Pokemon's typically displayed. But when you look at the manga, there's serious parts in that too that they don't have in the show. There was a whole episode where Ash gets a gun pointed at his face and they never aired it here because they knew that little American minds couldn't handle it.
Hey, the whole first season of Pokemon I don't think was ever planned to leave Japan. Honestly.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
the way it was made and just the situations. They didn't know.
Yeah.
You can tell there was no westernization about it. Like, they had no intentions of putting it over here in America, I think.
It just took off almost accidentally.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure they did kind of, because they're not ignorant. They're not ignorant to the fact Americans aren't comfortable with this. So they probably started quaking in their boots when they realized, oh crap, we had guns and we had cross-dressing and we had all of this violence inside of, and Ash gets killed. He gets crushed with a bookshelf and dies in one episode with Pikachu.
And then goes flying around with the ghost
Hey,
Pokemon.
we're dead.
We're dead.
But yeah,
Ash dies several times, actually, even in the official movie.
I don't think they ever really planned it. Maybe by the movie for sure, but
yeah.
And that's a very infamous thing too about death in cartoon movies.
Or anime movies.
The Transformers movie. Transformers was huge in the 1980s, and in it, sorry if I'm spoiling this for anyone, but their leader, Optimus Prime, I think it was, dies like within the first 30 minutes of the movie, and they have to go on fighting without him. And people felt that was so traumatizing. They were like, never again. We are never ever going to have death in a children's movie again. And like a few years later, the G.I. Joe movie came out, the animated G.I. Joe movie, and their leader Duke was supposed to die in it. And you can tell at the end that they changed it. They changed the end to make it like he's just in a coma. And
God.
And
that reminds me of,
you can actually tell he was supposed to die. And like at the end, one of Jane, her name is G.I. Jane, get it? And she's like lamenting him like, that was for you, Duke. And it's like, why are you looking up in the sky saying that's for you, Duke, when he's just laying in a bed asleep? And you never see him again in the whole movie. So
exactly.
Anyway,
combining the this part of the show, we're just talking about things in entertainment in general, not just Pokemon, but also movies and games. But that when you mention that reminds me of what happened in Yu-Gi-Oh! During the one part of this story that I actually really love, the arc with Noah Kaiba in the virtual world.
Oh yes,
he is not alive.
What happened there?
What the only part of him that is alive, for people who don't know, is just his mind uploaded into a computer. His body is dead because he died from, I think it was an accident or it was an illness or something. I have to look that up again. But he was technically dead, and he's been inside a virtual world. And at the end of that, when Yugi defeats him, he's dead completely. But in the show,
I bet he saved his brain on a backup file.
Yeah. They had it changed to where I'm sure that he's still alive somewhere, but that is not how it originally is. He was dead.
Every series, every season, every series of Yu-Gi-Oh, you can tell that 4Kids just had no clue what they were buying. Like, they were just, hey, it's cartoon. Kids like cartoons from Japan right now. Let's put some translation on it. And when they got it, they're like, this is too damn dark. What the hell are we going to do with this? And
stupid asses.
You can just tell, especially with, like, GX, you can just tell, because they go so overboard with the comedy in it.
Yeah.
To the point where, like...
Oh, they didn't even translate the whole other half.
They just flat out said, we can't do anything with this. we cannot... Because they kind of, I think, learned their lesson from the last season of the first Yu-Gi-Oh! Where they're just in Egypt, and there's no dueling. And it's like, we bought this series to sell toys. And they are not even advertising anything inside of the season. We literally were dubbing anime. That isn't 4Kids' job. We're here to sell toys.
That was their problem. Thankfully, they're no longer around. They are in some
they're
form.
out there somewhere. I bet they save their ignorance to a backup file.
Yeah, they're in some forms, but that was their whole problem. You don't get into a story and ruin a good story just to sell fucking toys.
They did. I got the Kaiba blimp. I got the dual disc.
They did fine with the voices for most of them. I don't ever want Bakura's voice to be different, although I do love the way he laughs evilly in Japanese. Have you ever heard it? It is so cute and sadistic.
I think I told you about this, but some company did buy the rights to the first season of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or at least the first 20 episodes of Yu-Gi-Oh! And they redubbed it and released it on DVD, and people hated it. And they were literally like, we wanted this for... And I remember seeing reviews, and they were really like, I know we've wanted this for years, a faithful dubbing of this anime that's not westernized and made for children, but I can't watch it because it doesn't have their voices in it.
Why didn't they just get the voices?
Because it was goofy, and maybe there were contractual things, but they flat out they got a new cast that sounded more like the Japanese cast, like Yugi's voice is more teenagey and stuff, and Joey doesn't sound like an Italian New Yorkster and stuff, and but people were like, we've always wanted this, but we didn't know what we wanted, apparently.
they want it, but they want it with the same people. Is what they want.
I guess they want a faithful adaptation, but they want their goofy voices back. Yeah, they can't watch it any other way. I have a I don't think it's rare, but I have a dub of Loveless in English, and it's really good. It's faithful completely. They don't cut anything out,
which we gotta watch.
And they actually make Ritsuka, or Itsuka, I think how they pronounce it inside of the anime, but they actually make it sound like a boy. Like, he doesn't sound like a little girl, like, so beautiful. He actually sounds like a young boy, and I thought that was so cool that they really went that far. And I don't know, I think we're embittered by a lot of anime because we're just, oh god, how are they going to screw this up? But
they, as much as I love card captors and I would not want the voices to change, they ruined that too. I thankfully did find the entire story.
Yeah.
Because it never fully aired in America. It fully aired in Canada only.
And even then, the dubbing kind of changed a few things.
Yeah, they cut out all of the same-sex relationships because 4Kids can't handle that. And they think that young American minds can't handle that. even though they can fully well, I'm sure.
There were some episodes of Hamtaro that got westernized. Like, especially like if there was kanji in the background or something, they would always cut it out.
If you watch a few episodes of Card Captors where Mr. Terada, Sakura's teacher, writes on the board, he literally turns away and there's nothing on the board because they edited out the kanji.
I don't... Okay, I get it and I don't get it. I get that there's no reason to have it up there because kids are going to not know what it says, but at the same time I don't get it as in what is it going to do if kids see kanji? Is it going to take them out of the show and they're going to say, I don't want to watch this anymore, I can't relate to this? Like,
it's not. It's going to make them questionable, yes, but they're going to want to know what it is. That's the nature of kids. They explore and they want to know something. So they're almost all like little detectives.
Detective Conan.
Yeah. There you go. Well, everyone, since we were talking about the entertainment world for a little bit, I'm going to get into games talk soon, because that is a whole other thing I want to touch upon. But we're going to go on our first break right now. I'll see you back with Miah after Domino Radio.
All right, gentlemen, I want you to repeat after me, just how I do it. Ready? Your turn. Very good. Go ahead now. Good golly. Bring it around now. Ladies. Good golly. Yeah! Ladies and gentlemen, may I present to you Mr. Charlie Puth on keys. Bring the beat back.
Let me see you better poop when the beat drops.
Bring the beat back. Your turn. Very good. Go ahead now. Good golly. Bring it around now. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was very good. We're gonna do the whole thing one more time. Follow my step. 2, 3, 4, and what do you say? Very good. Good golly. Bring it around now. Ladies. Good golly.
Welcome back to An Hour with Domino. The song you just heard was Betty Boop by Charlie Puth. It is one of my favorite electro swing songs. A little bit of trivia about it. One reason I love it so much is because the lead vocal sounds a lot like one of my novel characters. Well, he appears in several books in my world. I won't say every book because he is one of those, not a godlike character, but you know how some...
Omnipresent.
Yeah, he's like an omnipresent character. And he comes when he's needed and then leaves when he's no longer needed. And that character is known as Mr. White. Now, some of you may have met him already, reading my work. And if you haven't, you'll know when you do. But the lead vocal, he sounds just like him, and when you read more about that particular character, you'll understand why in time. I don't want to give everything away. I think Miah has a pretty good understanding as to why he does sound the way he does. But yeah. When I heard that song, I immediately knew it sounded just like him, because that's when I was first inspired with the character. That's how I had his voice in my head. Obviously, he has moments of speaking more seriously, but yeah. Anyway, getting into gaming talk. We'll get back to writing a little bit later in the show. Dead or Alive 6 really just took a plummet recently, didn't it, Miah?
Allegedly.
I had been waiting for this game since last year when they first announced it in the summer. So that is literally months. I'm just going to say right now, I will still play it. I'm not going to play it anytime soon, because there's a very hefty price in my way, and also a lot of negative reviews. A lot of people saying that it's missing a lot of what people loved about Dead or Alive, not only just the changes to the characters, but it's missing a lot of core elements to the game, and a much shorter storyline, and they're having people pay for number one of many season passes to go with the game that is more expensive than the game itself. That's not a very good start, people, especially with Soul Calibur 6 that just came out right before it, and it's doing much better than what this was. And I've been having a lot of fun with that game, too. We're going to be featuring it sometime soon on Domino Miah Games, as soon as I get everything ready for that, and whenever Miah wants to. I still want to play it, though. I'll play it with Miah, because I've been playing this series literally for years. It was my first fighting game series. It's what got me into liking martial arts games. I never could do martial arts myself. I was tragically born with a heart condition, and I've always wanted to do it, but I'm not able to. But that doesn't stop me from enjoying it in other ways.
About DOA 6, I can get why people are a little upset about the changes, like kind of less revealing clothing, kind of less character-driven things, sexy women, blah, 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 sexy guys. I understand why people are upset with them kind of softening all of that up, because you know, in like Japan and all those places, they had said even there, we're not going to release any more volleyball games, we're not going to do this anymore, we're going to tone the sex down. But they didn't. They ended up releasing a few more, and a few more downloadable contents and stuff like that, and people were kind of saying, hey, I guess they're going to give the middle finger to all those SJWs and stuff out there, saying, you know, don't sexualize people, don't sexualize these fake characters.
And rightfully so, because the characters are indeed fake. They're not real. They're just entertainment.
I guess I understand why they're upset. That, damn it, they gave in. They gave in and softened them up and made it a storyline focusing on something we don't care about. Isn't it like focusing on the ninja tribe a lot more and stuff?
Yeah, in which the ninja characters are, without a doubt, like the beginning core element of the game and the story, but there's so many more characters now and much bigger weaving story that you can't just focus on only them. That's ignoring all the other characters that now have a large part of the entire story, and it's essentially just ruining their own franchise.
With all of that being said, I understand the outrage. I understand this isn't my DOA, blah, blah, blah. You can't act surprised about the money. Because DOA 5, as we saw, if you wanted every costume, every character, every level, blah, blah, blah.
That's for digital downloading.
It would have been over $1,000.
Yep.
This is nothing new. What they're doing, you can't say, oh, they're milking the players, they're doing this, it's too expensive. DOA 5 was too expensive if you wanted everything. If you wanted every costume, every jiggle physic, blah, blah, blah. That's one thing people were mad. I think they took jiggle physics out.
A little bit more, yes.
But if you wanted every Nia Tengu costume, every Elliot costume, it was going to be over $1,000.
Yeah.
And I guess I could see some people buying one thing a month or something. I think they were like $8 to $10 each. Buying like one thing a month over the course of like, how long's DOA 5 been out? Like freaking, I think about 5 years. I think 4 or 5 years.
I think.
And like by now you would have just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And now DOA 6 is out, and just start over, do it there again.
And they're going to be doing it again.
But
the only problem is they may not have everything that number 5 had.
Yeah. And unless they charge you for jiggle physics. Unless they charge you for butt crack and jiggle physics, then...
And the tag battle system, although that's a big update. Right. How could you... Unless, I don't know, I didn't build the game. Maybe it is something you can easily update, but that seems like something that would be really hard-coded.
There were some... Yeah, it's a little bit difficult for me to comprehend why people are angry about this, because growing up and playing every wrestling video game that came out and buying every wrestling video game when it came out, and that was like every year, about 2 a year if you followed other companies. Every year a match would be taken out of the game, where you'd be like, one year you would have a lumberjack match where you can have several people on the apron who can pull you out by your ankles at any moment. Wow, this is fun. Next year it's gone. Yeah. Like, what the hell? I liked that one. And then, but they give you like a flaming table match at least. And it's like, whoa, cool. You can do this. Okay, it's a nice trade-off.
Yeah.
And then, of course, there were always the time there were no good trade-offs. You're like, this game sucks. And like everything good I liked is gone and this and that. But then you'd have to wait till next year and everything would be back. So maybe just the fact that it takes like 5 years between each game, I guess I can see why some people are disappointed. Like, there's no tag team battle inside of this one, and you're going to have to wait 5 years before you get one. And
another thing people have to think about is this is an age-old tactic that video game companies have been doing for the last decade now. Especially EA with the Sims games, the Sims franchise. Many games are doing season passes, or they just do, they have the core game doesn't have everything with it for a reason, because they want you to spend money to buy stuff to add to it later. I'm not in favor for it, and a lot of people aren't, but they're going to do it anyway, so you might as well just realize that that is the reason Dead or Alive 6 kind of had very little with it in the very beginning, because they're planning to release more stuff. Technically Soul Calibur 6 did it, but in my opinion Soul Calibur 6 had a lot when it first came out, so I really wasn't too upset about that, and their season pass was very cheap, and I got everything that I wanted right then, and since I've been getting more updates.
And at least if you wanted to, you could actually finish the game on just bare bones.
Yeah.
There are some cases where you can't finish the game.
That is the more ridiculous case, where you need to spend money to finish a game. No, that's not a game to me. That is just a money-making scheme.
Yeah. It happens.
It does.
It is the big debate now in gaming, that like game companies are evil, they're mean to their developers, and they are disrespectful to their fan base, and it's all about making money and loot crates and all this stuff, pay to win stuff, and
And not to talk about Pokemon in a negative light at all, because you know how much I love it, but they've been doing it even longer, in a way, to a certain extent. They always come out with Red and Blue,
Yeah,
Sapphire and Pearl,
too.
or wait, Ruby and Sapphire, and recently Sword and Shield. People know that each game has Pokemon exclusives.
Mm-hmm.
There are not very many, but there are a few exclusives that are only in that one game, and you can only play them by capturing them if you have that version.
Mm-hmm.
And they want you to buy both, is the thing. So,
Unless you have the Game Boy Advance transfer cord, then you can transfer all your
oh
pokes.
god, I had a nightmare with that thing, remember?
I think it's because you had a bootleg game cartridge.
Yeah, well, we didn't know that. We
I'm
bought it
pretty sure
officially.
That's what it is.
We actually officially bought a Pokemon game once in the past and did not realize that it was.
Yeah, and
It was being sold to us as an official game, which is illegal.
apparently it's a very infamous thing. You go
yeah,
on
it
eBay,
happened to a lot of people.
you go on eBay and like the first 50 listings of Pokemon cartridges are all bootlegs. So,
Yeah.
and then your battery died in it. Remember?
Yep. And technically, I didn't buy it. It was bought for me. It was a gift.
Oh, is that right?
Yep.
Thought I bought it.
Well, maybe with you and your brother's influence. It was a gift to
Oh,
me.
that's right.
They were
Lemmy,
gifts to
my
me.
brother bought it for you.
And nothing against Lemmy at all. I had a lot of fun time with it.
Yeah. I'm probably the one that sent him the link, is the thing.
Yeah, that's probably it.
So, yeah.
But, yeah. We're gonna have to wait a little while for Dead or Alive 6. I will play it, but it's not gonna be for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
I want to spend money on other things in the future, upcoming, and just, it kind of giving me a little bit of a, I guess I could say a red flag, but not too much. I'll just put it on the back burner for now. I'll eat it later.
It's a shame. That happens with movies a lot, too.
Yeah.
When we're like, I want to see this, and we're like all year, and then the reviews or the trailers come out, and we're like, I don't think we're going to see it.
Well, it's still the same thing for me, though, with movies. I want to see for myself. But I will pay attention to certain good reviews. Ones that are detailed and not just like saying, this movie sucked. Well, that doesn't give me anything. I want details as to why they didn't like it without spoiling it.
Mhm.
Speaking of movies, at the time of this, and it doesn't matter if I date a podcast or not because we're literally talking about stuff that's happened recently, Captain Marvel recently came out, and we're going to be seeing that sometime soon.
Apparently people aren't liking it.
I've seen some mixed reviews too, but are you seeing majority in the negative?
Negative people always have the loudest voices.
That's true.
So I'm not paying any attention to it. But yes.
We'll see.
What else? Oh, X-Men. There's a new X-Men coming out sometime this year, right?
2 of them. 2 different, that's going to exist within the X-Men world. One's focusing on the Dark Phoenix story, which looks really good, in my opinion, and it looks like it really won't be focused too much really on teenage drama, like hardly at all. It's focused on just the split mind of Phoenix and Jean Grey, and also a few other characters that I didn't see in the first trailer that are coming in. A few other powerful characters that have very good influence, and I think I might know what some of those are, but they're not revealing who they are exactly yet. And that kind of actually got me a little bit more interested in it. I've always loved X-Men. It's one of my favorite comics, among others that I like, but there's another one that's going to be later on. It's called The New Mutants, and that was actually in the comic world, that was literally a whole section of the X-Men comic where there was a group of young mutants that were technically kidnapped, and they were held for a while against their will. And they, at the time, they didn't know that they were mutants. They were just discovering their abilities, and they discovered them while being held in this place. So that makes it much more dramatic for them. And actually, they're saying that this movie is much more like a horror movie in general. It's not really like a traditional superhero movie. It's a horror movie.
Interesting. I do know they said the trailer played out that way.
Yeah. The trailer's been out for a long time because they were going to release it last year and they didn't do it. They pushed it to this year.
What was that other movie that we saw when we were in theaters? There was a trailer for it.
It seemed, I think I know what you mean. It seemed like people who had paranormal abilities, but...
Yeah, like kids in a van being abducted and they had paranormal abilities and they were escaping and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Never saw anything of that.
I don't even know what it was called.
Never saw anything of the robot dog one either, or the monster alien truck.
Oh, yeah. We didn't think that those two really looked too good, but we did want to at least see what people thought of it.
or the kid with the gun. Remember the giant alien gun? All those trailers looked exactly the same,
They
too.
did, too. They
looked
were all played out the same.
They played the same, had the same looking kids, had the same editing, had the same graphics.
Yep.
There was a truck one, not monster truck, with the squid monster in it, but there was another one. There was like there was like a cyborg truck, and then there was a cyborg dog, and then there was a cyborg gun one, and it was all about this tassel-haired teenage boy who finds something in a junkyard and stuff, and
yeah, they all
I think
had,
it's trying to communicate to us, and
it's all the same premise, pretty much.
yeah.
You know what? I think they could have been all made by the same person.
I wonder. But we never even saw them. Remember Cappy? The police officer robot?
Oh, you mean Chappie?
Chappie.
That actually had, what's his face in it? Some very notable people. He played Wolverine. I know his name. Damn it.
Yeah.
I hate when that happens to me because I'm very good with celebrity names, actually.
But apparently that did good overseas. And like it hardly played anywhere here in America.
Yeah.
But it did really good overseas.
I'll look for it. See if we can watch it. And that's a problem with a lot of movies. The really good ones are overlooked, unless it's superhero movies right now. Those are good too, but they're always pushed to the front. Everything else is kind of overlooked.
Mm-hmm. That is one of my favorite things, is discovering old cinema that nobody remembers.
Just like the one I showed you that you even quoted earlier tonight, Skyway to Death.
Oh yeah, made for TV, evening matinee movies.
It was made in the 70s.
They are just they are my guilty pleasure.
You love the ones from the 70s too.
Yeah, not in the sense that I like to laugh at them or make fun of them, or I just genuinely love them.
Yeah.
I relish in the fact that these things still exist and
just
nobody
like how
remembers them.
I love black and white films from the 50s and 40s too.
Mm-hmm.
Even if they have a very simple story, I just love them. But yeah, that was one that you were glad that I showed to you. And I only remembered it from when I watched it with my grandmother. I had to really track it down.
Yeah. I have a whole playlist saved on YouTube of just ABC Saturday evening movies or whatever they're called. And I want to check them out sometime before they're deleted.
If people don't know what the premise of the movie was, Skyway to Death was based off of an incline tram that gets sabotaged, and they have to stop it from literally sliding down its track and crashing and killing everybody on board. It had a really good premise to it. It's something that is believable.
It had one of my favorite techniques to storytelling, which is a group of strangers are brought together and forced to understand each other.
Yes.
in a moment of crisis. I don't know why I love those movies. They
A lot
make
of those
my heart
happened
feel good.
in the 70s too.
Yeah.
A lot of them did, but you even have some stories that are similar to that
Yeah,
situation like that.
and maybe that's why I like them so much, because they were some of the first stories, quote unquote, I ever wrote. What were stories about casts of people who meet each
Mhm.
other and all have to explain where they're from and what they do, and they all have different personalities and they all conflict with each other. I don't want to say it was the first, but I think the most recognizable one is like 12 Angry Men.
Oh yeah,
It's
both versions of that are good. The original and the remake.
Yeah, it's a very similar premise to things like that.
Another one I actually really liked, even though it's a little bit more open, is the one about that we watched, where what's his face was president. It's all talking, literally. They're all trying to prevent a nuclear explosion.
0 Hour?
Yeah, I think it was
Is that what it
0
was
Hour.
called? I don't remember, but it was made for TV. It was a live.
They accidentally
simulcast.
bomb Russia,
Yeah.
but the whole movie they're trying to prevent that from happening.
Yeah. Don't spoil it. But yeah, I love those movies. I love those.
Oh, I didn't spoil it. The ending to that movie just leaves you sitting there in silence.
Like House on Haunted Hill.
That movie was...
Well, not House on Haunted Hill.
Oh, you mean the series?
Yeah, the series that's out right now that every human being on Earth wants to spoil for me.
Yeah, it
Because
seems.
every single time they walk up to me, have you seen House on Haunted?
They did make a
Haunted
movie.
Hill House and blah, blah, blah.
The Haunting of Hill House.
Haunting of Hill House. Have you seen it? Man, it's unlike anything you've ever seen. There's this part. Don't tell me I haven't seen it yet. Oh, dude, you gotta see it. Gotta see it. Gotta see it.
You see, that's happened to me in a few times in the past, except the problem is the person just kept on talking. And I had to dissociate myself with them permanently.
Baloney and sandals. Baloney and sandals. What? Baloney and sandals.
Oh, one of those people.
Is that a so-and-so reference? Yeah. Dude, gotta see it. Gotta see it. Nah. For those who don't know, that's a Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged.
Which always happened to you.
It
happened to you more than me.
Yeah.
For some reason.
Every time I would go to a convention, and I actually told Domino this, we're going to go to this convention, and an anime convention. I'm going to be cosplaying as Merrick Ishtar from Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to have some random dude walk up to me and shout some non sequitur to me, and it's going to be from Yu-Gi-Oh! Abridged series.
Mm-hmm.
And sure enough, I think it was something about leather pants, because that's a recurring thing with Yu-Gi-Oh! Dude, leather pants. Gonna take your leather pants or something like that.
I don't know. I don't.
And I'm just like, is that from Yu-Gi-Oh! Bridge series? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I haven't seen it. Dude, gotta watch it. It's
No,
hilarious.
Like the original Yu-Gi-Oh!
It's hilarious. It's like, and I remember like, she didn't know, but there was like this lady at a convo we were having or whatever, and she saw me and she was like, well, I'm gonna be at like I think it was like Ichiban or something like that, and she was like, little Karibo's gonna be there, so I'm sure you'll enjoy it. It's like,
yeah,
I didn't say anything.
Assuming just because we're dressed like American Bakura.
What is that like? What is that like to be so associated with something that you're just a fan of that now you're infamous with it? Like that would be like, oh, you like Stephen King's Christine or something like that. Hey, Scott Stockton's going to be at this con. You got to be there.
Whoa,
It's
if
like-
I was always brought up whenever somebody mentioned Stephen King, that would be quite something.
And you see, that's probably how little Karibo feels. Like he's a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! And now nobody can talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! Without saying, hey, little Karibo's going to be there. You're going to love it.
God.
Has to be pretty cool. I don't think his series is funny, but it has to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I suppose. Although, one thing that if something like that ever happened, one thing I can kind of hold over Little Karibo is the fact that
I'm more talented.
No, my work is original. His is not.
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal.
It's true. All he did was edit an episode.
It's parody. It involves some writing and comedy. Original.
Tell you what, maybe Little Karibo can make it up to me if he actually reads one of my books. He doesn't have to like it. I'm not telling him to like it. That's strictly for his own mind to absorb.
I wonder if there's a nostalgia critic version of book readers.
Maybe.
A book critic who just makes fun of everything.
Probably. I don't. If there is, I don't want to meet him.
Aw.
Because it's his. He literally already will start reading and not like it.
That's their job, to be pissy.
Okay, so are you saying that, like Nostalgia Critic, he could actually like it, but his character does not?
You see, that's why I at first never liked Nostalgia Critic when I was younger. I didn't like him because he's mean. He makes fun of things, but then I actually kind of sat down and watched a whole review, and the majority of the times, at the very end, he would be like, and actually, the saving grace of this is blah, blah, blah. And he would go into detail of why maybe it's not so bad and stuff like that. And
yeah, the thing about Nostalgia Critic, that is literally his character.
Yeah.
It's not Doug Walker himself.
yeah. And same goes for Angry Video Game Nerd. I'm sure there's people who watched him and thought it was real.
Yeah.
Thought he was really this crazy beer-swelling nerd who just lived in a moldy old basement complaining about everything, but
Yes.
it's a character. It's not James Rolfe.
Yeah. I used to love when James Rolfe would have his talking about books
Talking books.
segment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
talking books.
Maybe he'll bring that back someday. But, boy, a lot's been happening lately, hasn't it?
It has. I've been on break for 5 days, and I love it.
I've really been loving it too, having you here.
I still feel like I haven't gotten enough done.
It will always feel like that.
For those who don't know, I have a day job, like most Americans, but it is soul-crushing, and it is time-consuming, and
It's only to help with the money, that's all.
it's all about money.
Everybody's got to get money somehow to stay alive.
I have no passion in it. I have no desire to change the world with it.
You're not even going to stay with it for the rest of your life.
Probably not. Like, I highly doubt the place I work will even be in business 5 years from now. But
Maybe not in this town, but...
but I just... I'm really glad I'm home, just for at least 5 days. Day after tomorrow, I head back, and it's back to the grindstone, as they say. And
I'm glad you're here tomorrow, then.
yeah, I don't have to work a ton, at least when I get back like I normally do. I'm actually going to be easing back into it. But, like, other than that, I've been able to work on my music a lot lately. And I'm planning to do things with my own YouTube channel soon, and don't know how that's going to go exactly, because I do blame work. I blame my own job I have, that I've just have not been in touch with myself creatively lately. I've stunted myself so much and kept myself quiet so much because of work. You know, I don't want to say anything bad about anyone, but my job is serious. It's a lot of very serious people who take their job seriously, and this is a place of business, and I'm not that kind of person. I mean, I can turn it on and off, but when the switch is on off for so long, it's hard to get it started again. And I'm surrounded by such joyless people who don't get comedy and don't get jokes and don't get references and don't want to, you know? Like, I go to work with people who don't even know Arnold Schwarzenegger quotes. So
I have to wonder, do they really not know them, or are they just like pretending like you?
I think
Or
I think
or
that
just wanting to get through the day
I
just
think
like
a
you are.
good percentage of it is that they're just, I don't want to risk laughing.
Yeah.
I don't want to risk laughing because then people will take advantage of me. People will think I have a heart. But
That's something that my grandmother once told me a long time ago when I was going to school at the beginning of the school year, and she always knew I didn't like school too. And you know, it's just a simple thing that a lot of people probably have heard even before. She said, all those other students are just as scared as you are. And I don't believe, at the time I didn't believe that all of them were. But thinking about it, a lot of students probably did put on a front because they all were growing the same time I was too. And even though I did hate a lot of people in school, I'm sure there were a lot of people that did have a fake personality and was trying to find themselves and fit in like everyone else. And when you go to a workplace too, you don't let out all of your personalness because that's not the place to do it. You're just there to get your work done and get money, but at the same time, you're in a place where everybody else is, and it's kind of human nature that when you're around another person, you kind of have, it's like an instinctual need to communicate. It's just our species. Not everybody has it right away. Introverts don't have it right away, but outroverts have a very excessive need to express it. But yeah, I just think that that's, and then they don't know if they should risk it or not.
That's been the biggest problem since being off for 5 days. Is I have a lot of trouble turning it back on. I think I've done okay. I've kind of been able to mellow out and focus on stuff I want to focus on. Not everything, but a little bit. I can't even begin to dream of doing it when I get off of work. I mean, I would love to. I would love to have that kind of schedule where I get off of work and immediately I start working on my personal stuff. I can be happy and jokey like I am the majority of the time, but it just doesn't happen. I'm so just crushed into the ground from work that I just can't turn it back on. And I have this internal fear that I'm losing it, that I'm going to be losing who I am and stuff. And
I
back
honestly
to
hope not.
back to the YouTube channel thing, it's, you know, last year I would have just been able to say, like, I know what I'm going to put on this channel. I know what I'm going to do with this. But not only because I don't have time, I feel like I don't have that part of me right now activated that can just create nothing out of, or create something out of nothing like I used to. And it's worrying, but I'm not focusing on it, and I'm going to try to stay motivated and try to remember that I've come a long way. I've managed to do a lot of stuff, and I have a lot of stuff at my disposal now that I didn't a year ago that I can utilize to help me along the way. And it's just part of being creative. It's you have to sacrifice some things sometimes, but just don't lose yourself. Don't lose.
I don't think you've lost yourself, truly. Because there's been times, even just lately, I've seen you have creative ideas without you realizing it. And you just haven't had a chance to fully express them. When we're together, I see a lot of your creativity. Always have. We're going to go on our second break of the show, and after that, we'll talk about whatever Miah wants to, and maybe a little bit of some of my work that I've been doing too, some of my writing and stuff maybe. I'll take you now to Domino Radio, and we will be back soon. Welcome back to An Hour with Domino. The song you just heard is called Bomb Bomb by Sam and the Womp. That is the 1940s version, or slightly 1930s version, electro swing mix of the original song. It's the one I prefer the most. On my channel here, I actually do have a little bit of a music video that I made with The Sims 3 to that song, so you can look for it if you want to. It should still be public. I don't think it's been taken down by YouTube. But anyway, here's the last part of the show where we'll talk about a little bit of my books or so goals and stuff and whatever else Miah wants to. What have you been thinking about just recently?
I've been thinking about how long it took for you to update your About Me section on
Oh, yes.
Domino Punky Heart.
Okay, I have a little bit of a story that we discovered the other night. So, everybody knows that YouTube updates so much and changes things so much. When I first created the Domino Punky Heart channel, it was way back in, I think it was 2011. I started making AMVs, which are anime music videos, or animated music videos in general, back in 2010. It was just a little hobby of mine, just another thing to express my creativity while I was not working on books. And I joined the AMV Alliance on YouTube, and this is really when I just started doing YouTube, actually, a little bit. I wasn't doing it for a career, I wasn't even doing it for anything to replace anything else that I was doing. It was just kind of a fun thing, and I had a lot of followers. I'm not going to, toot my own horn or anything, but I did, and I won 2 awards with AMV Alliance. One of them I was really proud of with something I created. It was a Helsing Ultimate AMV, back when Helsing Ultimate wasn't even finished. So I had very little to work with, actually, only a few OVAs. And the discussions tab and everything, I realized that I have tons of comments on this channel. and old comments of mine, and also I had a link to an old Weebly page of mine where I actually spent hours on. I remember this, and this was a piece of ancient history for me. And Miah got a big kick out of it. He loves seeing old things about me and stuff that he never did get to see before he was in my life.
I love internet archaeology.
Yeah, you do. And I myself, I do find that interesting, but I also just love history in general. But that is a little bit of ancient history about my little world. I have since removed the link because if I am going to keep it, first I need to know what the sign-in for it is. Because I don't even know if I can sign back into it now.
Yeah.
I don't even know what email it's hooked up with. I have to figure that out first. Thankfully, it's not really being advertised anywhere because I don't really want people looking at it right now. It has outdated information.
I would have loved it if you had done an episode of Domino Miah Games exploring Domino's old Weebly.
Oh, and you found it right then? That would have been embarrassing for me.
We could have read it off and everything and checked out the
You
old
had your
links.
fun. You had your fun.
That would have been cool. I would do it if any pages of me existed anymore.
Oh, all right.
I'll
think about it.
I tried using Wayback Machine and stuff to look at some of my old pages, and none of them exist anymore.
When I say that I would have felt embarrassed, it doesn't mean that I was ashamed. I'm not ashamed of anything that I have created. Everything that I create, I've always taken very seriously.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm not ashamed of the stuff I did on MySpace, because that was me. It's what I did. It's what I liked. It's who I was. And I wouldn't be who I am if I wasn't for that little nerd.
Maybe we'll touch upon that later on at some point. I might actually update the Weebly page that I made, if it allows me. I don't even know if Weebly is really even being maintained.
Mm.
I may have to find a whole new way to do stuff, but my mum actually was the person who actually said to make a Weebly page. I think she wanted me to make it for my writing at the time, and I didn't use it for that. Not that I didn't want to. I think I was planning to make a separate one for my writing. I think I was.
Didn't she talk you into making a Facebook for your writing? Like, it's the only reason you even have Facebook?
Sort of. I think it was a little bit more of my friend Daniela and also some of my siblings who officially got me to get a Facebook. But I think also, when I made it, I also added you on it shortly after. Like,
Yeah.
I made it
was one of your
before
first
you.
friends.
I made it before you, though.
Yeah. I was one of your first non-family friends, I think,
Yeah.
besides Danny.
Yeah. And now pretty much what I use Facebook for is just to communicate with my mom, Daniela, and my friend Rachel.
Yeah.
Not singling out anybody on there, but nobody really sends me messages on there anymore.
There aren't many business opportunities on Facebook anymore.
No.
Because you gotta
I
pay
might
for
even
everything.
I might even be stopping the Phonomuse page on there because it in order to upload on there too, there's also the risk of my videos being taken down on there.
Mm-hmm.
And also it's not very good quality. I have judged the quality difference and
Yeah.
I might just be removing my Phonomuse page on there.
Mm-hmm.
Phonomuse itself has been doing really well. I just got another watcher today, apparently. I love the comments that people leave on there when they talk about their music.
But yeah, a lot of people don't realize YouTube was a very different place
Yeah.
only a few short years ago. It was sort of in the running of trying to become a social media site rather than just an rather than just a cable channel, which is essentially what it wants to be now.
Mm-hmm.
But it used to be in competition with Facebook and MySpace. And you could create a profile, and it was very similar to like a Facebook or MySpace setup. You could have your own background on your profile. I remember that. You could like move around widgets, and your About Me section was off to the side, and your videos were in center. And
I think Rachel would have loved our MySpaces. I do.
I liked mine. I
was
spent
proud
so
of
much
mine.
time on mine.
I went to so much coding into it too to keep my music player up, and I actually, toward the end of MySpace's life, they started to take things down from people.
Yeah.
They would take down my music player, but I always put it back up because I would go into the coding and hard code it on there, and they didn't know how I did that. So I was a little proud of that. But eventually the whole thing just got shut down and revamped, but thankfully not before you and I got to meet.
Yeah.
That was the last thing, and by that time I was willing to let it go.
I saved our messages, though.
That's right. We still got them. Recently on my DeviantArt, I'm sure some people... I plan to upload more of my drawings on there. I just want to say, if anybody from DeviantArt is listening to this right now, I will be uploading more drawings in the future. Having a problem with the scanner not wanting to cooperate with my brand new laptop, and it's not just the scanner's fault, it's just the fact that, technology advances every year, and they just don't make things cooperate anymore. I will have art up in the future. I do have drawings that I have done the past year, but I've been uploading at least digital artworks from my games. One of them in particular I've been doing with City Skylines, but I've also run into a slight problem with that too, with one of my large cities that I have built and spent so much time with. The game is giving me an error, and I've looked a lot into it right now, and I'm still working on that, so I will keep that updated as well. I'm hoping I won't lose that save game, but I was spending a little time building other little metropolises that I was showing to Miah recently too. And I'm a little bit more cooled down from it now, but when it was happening I was very angry with it. But there's really, in all honesty, no use in continuing to be angry with it that much, because you won't solve the problem. So I'm just going to try to solve it and see if I can save that save file. We got a lot of stuff upcoming for Domino Miah games too.
Mm-hmm.
Coming soon.
Pretty much for our anniversary in April, we're going to be trying some new stuff. We're going to be announcing some new segments, and we're going to be starting new games, and I think it'll be pretty fun. We're kind of revamping, for lack of a better term.
In my writing world, the world of my writing, I've been doing a little bit off and on the past few months. I've kind of had a slow start this year, mostly because I've been gaming a lot and enjoying that. But I have done some writing. I didn't do a whole lot in February because February was such a busy month, but I did do a little bit. I hope to do more. I'd like to publish something new of mine this year, or maybe even republish one of my other books that I have been redoing. But I guess we'll see whatever my creative path takes me, because I never rush any of my work. I just go with my creative flow, you could say. I usually explain that much better, but I'm glad that you still enjoy my stuff, Miah.
Of course I do.
Everything about my world.
Yep. It's hard for me to say that you do or don't enjoy anything of mine, because I just haven't been able to freaking produce anything of mine in close to a year. Nope, over a year now.
I do very much enjoy what you do, though.
I'm trying to get some more out there.
There's still a character in my book, Moonbeam, that both Rachel and my sister Colette like, that you haven't met yet.
I have to meet them.
Hope everyone was enjoying the show this time. I don't know when the next episode will be out, but sometime soon. But I think I'm going to end it here, actually.
Alrighty. You talk to an interesting person.
I will have another one up when more stuff comes out, or just even when I feel like it. And Miah can always come on whenever he wants. After all, he lives right here with me.
Yay. You live with me. Thank you.
Oh, we live together. You have fun, Miah?
I did, darling. How about you?
Yes.
Cool.
Alright, everyone. We'll see you later on. Bye for now.
Bye.